Hello there, Peter from Universal Dork back again, and today I wanted to chat about a really rad movie from 1982, straight out of Hong Kong, called He Lives by Night. Check that shit out. This is a bootleg version of the VHS. The real VHS is extremely hard to come by. There are no Blu-rays of this thing, and there really should be, so I hope Vinegar Syndrome or someone there takes up the challenge and gives this a fancy new restoration. In the meantime, there's also this DVD that you can acquire from Far East Flicks for pretty cheap. It looks to be like it's probably some sort of bootleg as well, but it's a pretty good quality one. So I highly recommend that. This movie is a very interesting little gem here. It is basically a Hong Kong giallo. So it's got all the elements of an Italian giallo sort of slasher horror film with all of those amazing neon lights and everything that I love so much, especially from movies like this from the 1980s. And right here, Hong Kong serves it up hot and fresh. This one will not disappoint. If you're a fan of people like Argento, this is going to be right up your alley. So this breathtaking little shocker is directed by a guy named Po Chi Leong. And looking at his Letterboxd page, it looks like he's got a lot of interesting stuff in his back catalog of his filmography that I definitely want to check out. Looks like some American productions as well. So I'm going to dive deep into his actual filmography and see if anything that he does stands up to this, because I gave this thing 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. It might even be a 4.5 star movie. Now this one stars the iconic Kent Cheng. He is a pretty awesome character actor from Hong Kong. He's been in a bunch of my favorite genre movies from Hong Kong, particularly some pretty cool horror ones that I want to mention quickly. One of the first was a movie from 1983 called The Trail that's directed by Ronnie Yu. Now, the interesting thing about Ronnie Yu is I watched one of his movies at the shop here the other day, Warriors of Virtue. You know, the one with the martial arts kung fu kangaroos. It's sort of a riff, I guess, on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That movie was all right. I really want to love it. However, Ronnie Yu, though, is more famously known for a couple movies that he did in the United States, like Freddy vs. Jason, and he also helmed Bride of Chucky. So this guy knows what he's doing, and The Trail is a pretty cool period horror piece that takes place in China, and they're transporting a body, and the body comes to life. It's sort of a zombie style movie. Check that one out. Another one that's pretty cool from Kent Cheng is Vampire Buster from 1989. In that movie, Kent is sort of a portly guy in general, but in that movie, he, instead of playing a sort of numbnut schlub, which he normally does in most of his movies, he actually plays in this film kind of a wild exorcist guy who knows martial arts. He jumps around and he's got all of these special powers that he uses. This movie has no vampires in it. It is an exorcism movie, and that one's pretty fun as well. There's another great one that I highly recommend called Vampire's Breakfast from 1987 that stars Kent Cheng, and that one is great. It's him in, the 1980s in Hong Kong. There is a wild and crazy Western vampire. When I say Western vampire, I'm not talking about a cowboy vampire, but opposite of the hopping vampires that you'll see in a lot of Hong Kong stuff. So this one's pretty unique. It's a very basic plot. He's a journalist on the trail of these serial killings. He hooks up with this woman that he's got a little bit of a romance with. There's a little bit of a John Hughes thing going on in that one. Vampire's Breakfast, top notch. Really great Hong Kong horror movie that is played straight for the most part, and I love that because there's way too many stupid slapsticky Hong Kong movies, and this is not one of them. So check that one out. And lastly, I wanted to recommend another one called Run and Kill from 1993. Now, my friends at the Movie Melt podcast recently did an episode on that. I highly recommend checking out the Run and Kill episode of Movie Melt. This one stars Kent Cheng, and it is one of the wildest Category 3 action horror films that I have ever seen. It's absolutely nuts. Basically about this schlubby guy, Kent Cheng, gets drunk one night after he discovers that his wife is having an affair on him. He goes out, gets wasted, and accidentally, in a drunken stupor, hires this guy to murder his wife. And then from there, things go off the rails when he awakens next day, doesn't remember what's going on. Check that shit out. Run and Kill will blow your fucking mind. But hey, be prepared to be totally shocked. It's one of the best. Now, He Lives by Night borrows a little bit from De Palma. If you've ever seen Dressed to Kill, it follows and has some similar beats to that, featuring a killer who's very similar to the one in Dressed to Kill. but we'll get to that in a little bit. It also borrows heavily from Dario Argento in a great way. It really does have that familiar style, with every scene lit in all of these beautiful different colors, lots of shadow and fog everywhere. I'd go as far to say that I would put this one right up there with some of the best Italian giallo horror films around. So if you're a fan of that, you got to check this out. This is a real unique one. It's one of the only movies that I've seen from Hong Kong, especially during this era, that features that type of influence. But it really has way more of a sense of humor, which I completely love. This one, though, like I said, is not a slapstick Hong Kong movie. This one is able to manage some really good comedy and mix it in. And now, even though there are some pretty good comedic scenes in here, this is not a comedy. This is filled with some pretty terrifying kills and some pretty shocking twists and turns. And one of my favorite things about it is that it features the trope of the 1980s late night DJ. This girl here, she's got rad style. She's pretty sassy, and she's got a killer on her trail. Now, this killer dresses up like a woman and is triggered and then kills any woman that he sees wearing white fishnet stockings. So he just goes ballistic. He goes into a psychopathic rage when he finds them, and he can't contain himself. He's got to kill them. So he's running all over town. Kent Cheng is on the case. He's a cop here with a buddy, and this woman has to form an alliance with two numbnuts. Kent Cheng very oftentimes plays a numbnut. I would say the best way to describe him in many of his roles is a numbnut schlub. So that is a character that I love as well, is a numbnut schlub. Those are always fantastic to see in movies, especially if the comedy's done right. And it's always great to see the numbnut schlub rise to the occasion and prove that maybe at his core he does have a little bit of a hero inside of him. And there's one thing that can get a numbnut schlub off the couch from zero to hero pretty quickly, and that is a beautiful woman. And Kent Cheng and his partner both have a little bit of an infatuation going on with her. So that's a really great aspect of the film too. There's a tinge of romance here, but it's pretty much nonstop thrills. But this one follows this pretty crazy story all over 1980s Hong Kong. The settings and locales here are visually stunning, and the finale of this film just goes off the rails with some wild, totally bonkers action and horror. I'm not going to give too much away, but it all takes place inside of a 1980s Hong Kong radio station, so you can't go wrong there. And you get to see our main hero, the radio DJ, take on this psychopathic lunatic that she's lured inside. And unfortunately, she gets a lot more than she bargains for. And it's a pleasure as well to see that the killer gets a lot more than he bargains for as well. This thing just flies in a lot of different directions here. And it's such a delight to watch all of this crazy mayhem explode on screen. A finale like this makes me realize how much a movie like Longlegs misses the mark, actually. There's a lot of scenes in here, too, that are pretty shocking as well. That's what I love about some of these Hong Kong movies, are the tonal shifts that happen. This one's got a lot of them. This one's got some comedy, and just when you start feeling safe enough, that is when they turn the tables on you and send you into some very terrifying scenes of this killer stalking people. They definitely do not pull any punches here. They keep you right on the edge of your seat with some pretty fucking gnarly horror, particularly in this very well-crafted shower bathroom sequence that's dripping with tension, and it pretty much immortalizes this bizarro, eccentric villain as a very memorable and iconic Hong Kong slasher. It's definitely one of my favorite sequences in a Hong Kong horror flick, that's for sure. Lots of cat and mouse games going on, and this guy, masquerading as a woman, is completely unhinged and vicious. And this one is a very high recommendation from me. It's one of my favorite all-time Hong Kong horror movies. Hits all the right beats and does not disappoint on any level. You've got to check this out. He Lives by Night from 1982. One of the best and probably the only Hong Kong giallos out there. It's a very unique little movie. Someone get on the case here. Let's get this thing on Blu-ray and give it the cult following that it needs in the United States, and also to those Italian audiences who think that they're the best at doing the giallo. I'd be willing to put He Lives by Night up against some of the best that Italy had to offer during the golden era of the giallo. Check out all of those movies I mentioned earlier, and let me know if you're a fan of Hong Kong horror movies. If you're into the genre, what do you think are the ones that I need to check out? Because that's one of the hardest things, is weeding through all of the crappy Hong Kong stuff. Now, there's a lot of crappy stuff from the United States, but Hong Kong does have this problem with some really terrible potty humor, over-the-top slapstick, annoying comedy. There's a time and a place for that. I love films that can find the right balance from Hong Kong. So if you know of a good one that balances all of the horror and comedy together perfectly, like He Lives by Night, let me know in the comments. And I'll see you next time.